I'm 78 years old now. At this age, the days don't rush past the way they used to. They stretch out quietly, one folding into the next. The house makes little sounds I never noticed before. The refrigerator hums. The clock in the hallway ticks louder than it should. Sometimes I sit in my chair and listen to those sounds and think about how long a life can feel, and how short it actually is. 40 years. That's how long I spent proving myself. And the strange part is, I'm not even sure who I was trying to convince anymore. I used to think life was something you climbed, like a ladder that started somewhere around your 20s, and every few years you were supposed to be higher than you were before. Better job, better title, bigger house. People noticing you a little more when you walked into a room. Back then, that seemed like the whole point. When I was 27, I got my first real job at a manufacturing company just outside the city. It wasn't glamorous. A gray building with low ceilings and fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly all day. But to me, it felt like the beginning of everything. I remember the first time my supervisor nodded at something I did. Just a small nod. He said, "Good work." It stayed with me the entire drive home. You'd think he'd given me a medal. I didn't grow up with a lot of praise. My father believed in hard work, not compliments. If you did something right, that was simply what you were supposed to do, nothing more. So, when someone noticed me, it felt important, important enough that I started chasing that feeling. At first it seemed reasonable. I stayed late sometimes, took on projects others didn't want, learned things that weren't technically part of my job. People noticed. Promotions came slowly, but they came. By my mid-30s, I had an office with a door. That door mattered to me more than I care to admit now. Around that time, I got married. Her name was Linda. She had this quiet laugh that started small and then spilled out when she really meant it, the kind of laugh that made other people laugh too. We were happy in those early years, or at least, I believe we were. We rented a small house with a crooked mailbox and a kitchen window that looked out onto a narrow backyard. Linda used to grow tomatoes there. I didn't understand why she was so proud of those tomatoes. You could buy them cheaper at the store, but she loved them. She'd call me outside sometimes to look at them like they were something remarkable. I usually said I'd come in a minute. Sometimes I didn't go. Work had started to pick up around then. More responsibility, more people depending on me. Or at least that's what I told myself. It felt good to be needed in that way. The company had a certain culture. People who stayed late were the ones who moved forward. The ones who answered emails at midnight were the ones management trusted. I watched that pattern carefully, and I followed it. At first, Linda didn't complain much. She'd wait up for me some nights, sitting on the couch with a lamp on beside her, a book open in her lap. I'd walk in around 10 or 11 and she'd smile, though she looked tired. "How was your day?" she'd ask. I'd give the short version, mostly about work. Looking back now, I realize I rarely asked about hers. Time passes strangely when you're busy. Years can go by and it feels like a single long season. Promotions came, bigger office, more people under me. The paychecks grew. We bought a nicer house, 2 floors, a proper yard. From the outside, it looked like things were going very well. People respected me at work. Younger employees asked for my advice. My bosses trusted me with bigger decisions. And I kept thinking, just a little further, just one more step up. Once I get there, things will settle down. That's what I told Linda more than once. Just this year, I'd say. It's important. There's always a year like that. 1 becomes 5, 5 becomes 20. Small moments started slipping past me without much thought. Linda stopped asking me to come look at things in the garden. She still grew tomatoes for a while, but eventually she stopped doing that too. I didn't notice right away. You'd think you would. But life has a way of hiding quiet changes when you're not paying attention. We had dinner together less and less. Sometimes I'd eat at my desk. Sometimes I'd get home after she'd already gone to bed. On weekends, I was often catching up, reports, planning, calls. The company started expanding in the late 90s. That was when everything accelerated. Bigger stakes, bigger expectations. I became a vice president when I was 49. I remember the day they told me. My boss shook my hand and said, "You earned it." And I believed him. I drove home that night feeling 10 feet tall. Linda congratulated me. She really did. But I remember something about the way she said it. Not sadness exactly, just distance, like she was congratulating someone she used to know very well. I didn't stop to think about that at the time. I was already thinking about the next challenge, the next thing to prove. And the strange part is, the people I was trying to impress kept changing. A new boss, new executives, new expectations. The finish line kept moving. I was always almost there. That went on for decades. 40 years can pass that way, quietly. One evening at the office, after most people had left, I looked around the floor and realized something odd. The people whose approval I'd chased for years, many of them were gone, retired, transferred. Some had died. Their opinions had shaped huge parts of my life, and now they weren't even in the building anymore. I remember standing there under those fluorescent lights and feeling a strange emptiness. But even then, I didn't change much. Habits built over 40 years are heavy things. The real turning point didn't come until later. I was 67 when Linda got sick. It started small. She was tired more often, said her back hurt. At first, we thought it was something minor. Then the tests began. Hospitals have a particular smell. If you've spent time in one, you know it. That smell followed us for months. One afternoon, a doctor sat across from us in a quiet room and explained what was happening inside her body. I don't remember all the medical words. I only remember the silence afterward. Linda reached over and held my hand. Her hand felt smaller than I remembered. That was when everything slowed down. All the meetings, the emails, the deadlines that once felt so urgent. None of them meant anything inside that hospital room. I retired not long after. For the first time in decades, I had time, real time, mornings with no schedule, afternoons where nothing was required of me. And that's when the weight of those 40 years began to settle in. Linda and I sat together more during those months than we had in a long time. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. One evening we sat on the back porch watching the sun go down. The yard had grown wild over the years. No tomatoes anymore, just grass and a few stubborn weeds. Linda looked out at it for a while and said something I've thought about almost every day since. She said, "You know, I always thought someday we'd slow down and enjoy things together." She didn't say it angrily, just matter of fact, like she was describing the weather. I didn't know what to say, because the truth was, I had always thought that too. Someday. There's a dangerous word. Someday assumes time will wait for you. It doesn't. Linda passed away the following spring. The house has been quiet ever since. Sometimes I walk past the old garden area in the yard and think about those tomatoes she used to show me. I wish I had walked outside more often, just to look at them. I spent 40 years proving myself. Late nights, early mornings, endless effort. And in the end, the people I was trying to impress moved on with their lives. Some of them probably don't even remember my name now. But the person who sat on the couch waiting for me to come home, she's the one I ran out of time with. If you're listening to an old man talk like this, you probably still have more time than I do. I won't tell you how to live. Everyone has their own path, their own responsibilities. But I will tell you something I learned too late. The people who matter rarely ask you to prove anything. They just want you there. Not someday, just now. Anyway, it's getting late where I am. The house is quiet again, and sometimes, in that quiet, I imagine Linda out in the yard holding a tomato in her hand, calling me outside to see it. If this story meant something to you, then I'm glad I told it.